Like many of you, I once found myself trapped in this spiral of overthinking. Then I discovered philosophers like Epictetus and Seneca developed practical exercises to break this pattern. In this video, I'll walk you through how ancient stoic practices and the modern concept of flow state work together to transform overwhelm into empowerment, freeing you from the mental cycles keeping you stuck and stressed. The modern mind trap. Picture this: you're lying awake at 3 a.m., your mind racing through an endless loop of what-ifs while tomorrow's responsibilities loom closer with every passing minute. That familiar weight in your chest grows heavier as each potential scenario plays out in vivid detail. This is the modern mind trap that millions find themselves caught in daily. Our current existence has engineered the perfect breeding ground for overthinking. We live in a world where digital tethers create a state of continuous partial attention, our focus fragmented across platforms and devices. The average person checks their phone 96 times daily, while absorbing the equivalent of 174 newspapers worth of information, compared to just 2 newspapers in 1986. Imagine your mind as a processing center flooded with packages it can't possibly sort fast enough. The societal pressure to optimize every aspect of life adds another layer to this mental burden. From career achievements to fitness goals, parenting approaches to financial decisions, we face expectations to make the perfect choice in every domain. Social media compounds this by showcasing carefully curated highlight reels that make others' lives appear effortlessly optimal, creating a gap between our messy reality and the polished perfection we measure ourselves against. While we believe this mental churning helps us prepare and solve problems, research reveals otherwise. Harvard psychologists discovered that excessive analysis actually decreases decision quality and satisfaction with choices made. What feels like productive preparation is often just spinning our mental wheels, burning cognitive fuel without forward movement. Yale neuroscientists found that overthinking activates the brain's threat detection system, triggering the same neural pathways as physical danger, essentially creating a false emergency that locks us in unproductive thought patterns. This mental time traveling, constantly revisiting past mistakes or rehearsing future scenarios, rarely allows us to experience the present moment where actual solutions emerge. When caught in this cycle, our brain's executive function becomes impaired. The physiological stress response releases cortisol that targets the prefrontal cortex, ironically, the very region responsible for clear thinking, rational decision-making, and emotional regulation. Overthinking creates the exact internal conditions that make clear thinking impossible. Consider your mind like a CPU running too many programs simultaneously. From the moment you wake up, snooze or get up, coffee or tea, which email first? Your brain processes countless choices. While many happen automatically through habits, we still face thousands of conscious decisions daily. Yet our conscious mind can only effectively process about 40 bits of information per second, while our sensory systems take in roughly 11 million bits. This cognitive bottleneck transforms into analysis paralysis, where the brain's default mode network, associated with self-referential thinking, becomes overactive, consuming significant resources without producing useful outcomes. The psychological cost is significant. Chronic overthinkers report higher levels of anxiety, depression, and sleep disturbances. They delay important decisions or avoid them entirely. Relationships suffer as overthinking partners misinterpret interactions and attribute negative intentions where none exist. Career advancement stalls as manageable challenges transform into overwhelming obstacles. Overthinking disguises itself as problem-solving. The internal narrative feels productive, I'm just being thorough, or I need to consider all possibilities. This creates a false sense that more thinking equals better outcomes, when research consistently shows that beyond a certain threshold, additional analysis yields diminishing and eventually negative returns. This overthinking trap isn't a modern invention. Despite our tendency to blame digital devices and information overload, this tendency toward mental rumination is a fundamental human characteristic that ancient philosophers recognized. Seneca described the anxious mind as one that makes everything worse and suffers before it is necessary. Epictetus observed how people torment themselves with imaginings about the future rather than dealing with present reality. These ancient thinkers developed specific practices to overcome it. Their approaches weren't based on positive thinking platitudes, but on systematic training of attention and perspective. They recognized overthinking as a skill deficit rather than a character flaw, creating practical exercises to strengthen the mind's engagement with challenges without falling into rumination. Overthinking destroys productivity and peace by creating a neurological loop that prevents access to your brain's most efficient problem-solving capabilities. It blocks the neural pathways that lead to insight, creativity, and effective action. This explains why solutions often appear when you step away, during a shower, a walk, or upon waking. These moments of mental release allow different neural networks to engage, creating conditions for connections and insights that conscious overthinking blocks. The wisdom before smartphones. Those neural pathways that get blocked during overthinking were actually mapped by philosophers long before brain scans existed. In the midst of collapsing empires and political uncertainty that dwarfs our modern anxieties, a group of ancient thinkers developed a systematic approach to mental clarity that modern neuroscience is only now beginning to validate, and it might be exactly what your overwhelmed mind needs. The moments of mental release we discussed, those solutions appearing during showers or walks, were systematically cultivated by philosophers who recognized the human mind's tendency towards self-created suffering. While we attribute overthinking to modern pressures, these ancient thinkers faced societal collapse, disease outbreaks, and political violence that make our daily concerns seem relatively manageable. Consider the Stoic philosophers, who developed practical techniques amid genuine catastrophe. Marcus Aurelius wrote his reflections by candlelight in military camps while defending Rome's borders during the Antonine Plague that killed millions. Each morning, he practiced premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils, to prepare his mind for challenges. Begin each day by telling yourself, "Today I shall be meeting with interference, ingratitude, insolence, disloyalty, ill will, and selfishness," he wrote as someone training his mind to remain steady, regardless of circumstance. Imagine a Roman officer practicing this technique before battle, mentally rehearsing possible scenarios, defeat, injury, or the loss of comrades, not to induce fear, but to prepare his response. Compare this to a modern executive before a crucial presentation, who instead of spiraling into anxiety about what might go wrong, calmly considers potential difficulties and prepares mental responses, arriving with greater composure and adaptability. This practice represented deliberate mental training designed to strengthen attention and perspective, similar to how modern athletes condition their bodies. By mentally rehearsing potential difficulties, practitioners weren't dwelling in negativity, but inoculating their minds against being derailed when difficulties appeared. Epictetus and Seneca expanded this systematic approach from different life positions. Born into slavery and later disabled, Epictetus developed practices for maintaining clarity through the discipline of perception. Seneca, advisor to the unstable Emperor Nero, wrote extensively about managing anxiety while facing genuine danger. He practiced voluntary discomfort to demonstrate that what he feared often wasn't as terrible as his imagination suggested. It's what you do with what happens that matters, Epictetus taught. This psychological insight separates the event itself from your interpretation. By creating space between experience and judgment, these philosophers prevented the mind from spiraling into unproductive patterns, precisely what modern overthinking does to us. What makes these ancient approaches powerful is their systematic nature. The Stoics created structured daily practices and specific techniques for responding to challenges. They practiced evening reflection, reviewing the day's events and their responses, analyzing where their thinking went astray. This mirrors modern cognitive behavioral techniques that help identify and modify unproductive thought patterns, but without MRI machines or neurotransmitter studies. These weren't isolated spiritual practices for monks. They were developed by people deeply engaged in society, politicians, teachers, slaves, and emperors, living through intense social upheaval. They created these mental frameworks to engage with reality more effectively, focusing on pragmatic results rather than abstract theory. The test wasn't whether a philosophy sounded good in discussion, but whether it produced mental clarity and emotional resilience daily. Modern neuroscience now confirms what these ancient philosophers intuited: practices that train attention and perspective change brain function. Neuroimaging shows that practices similar to the Stoics, particularly mindfulness and cognitive reframing, alter activity in brain regions associated with emotional regulation and attentional control. The Stoic practice of viewing difficulties as growth opportunities activates neural networks associated with resilience rather than threat response. Their techniques for distinguishing between productive and unproductive thoughts help activate brain regions associated with executive function rather than emotional reactivity. These ancient approaches address the fundamental mechanics of human thought rather than specific cultural challenges. The pattern of overthinking, becoming stuck in recursive, unproductive thought loops, remains unchanged since ancient times, even if the specific content has evolved. When we practice the mental discipline they developed, we're engaging the same neurological systems they intuitively targeted centuries ago. The ancients recognized that the human mind naturally gravitates toward anxious rumination. Their solution wasn't more information or distractions, but training to recognize unproductive patterns and redirect attention toward what truly matters, precisely the antidote many need in an age where information and distraction are available in unlimited supply.